Bring me coffee, CEO told a single dad. He bought the entire coffee supply chain. They laughed when Marcus showed up to the Hartwell & Associates executive floor with a mop bucket. Diane Hargrove told her assistant, loud enough for the entire open plan office to hear, "Someone remind facilities that the cleaning crew uses the service elevator." The 42nd floor of Hartwell Tower gleamed with floor-to-ceiling glass and the particular silence of people who earned enough to never worry about noise. Diane Hargrove, Chief Executive Officer, 52, stood at the espresso bar in 4-inch Louboutins and a blazer that cost more than Marcus Delgado's monthly rent. She was surrounded by 3 senior directors: Trevor Poole, CFO, who smirked into his phone; Justine Ward, Chief Strategy Officer, who had the grace to look at the carpet; and Brett Calloway, Head of Partnerships, who actually pointed and said something to Trevor that made Trevor snort. Marcus heard one fragment through the open conference room door. Single father type. And another, softer one. Wonder if he knows which end of the mop goes down. Marcus Delgado gripped the mop handle. He was 41 years old, wearing navy coveralls with Summit Facilities stitched over the left breast pocket. His boots were clean. His daughter Maya had polished them for him that morning, 8 years old and serious about the task, the way she was serious about everything since her mother died. He squared his shoulders, crossed to the supply closet, found the cleaning caddy. What Diane Hargrove didn't know was that Summit Facilities was the smallest of 11 companies Marcus currently owned. What Trevor Poole didn't know was that Hargrove's company, Hartwell & Associates, was hemorrhaging 2 suppliers and about to lose a third, and that Marcus was one of them. What none of them knew was that by the time the board meeting on the 39th floor concluded that afternoon, Diane Hargrove would be fielding a call she was not prepared for, and Marcus Delgado would be the reason she'd have to answer it. But first, she'd asked him to bring her a coffee. 7 hours earlier, Marcus had woken at 5:15 a.m. to the sound of Maya's alarm going off in the next room. He lay in bed for 30 seconds, his one daily luxury, staring at the water stain on the ceiling of their 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside Hills. The stain had been there when they moved in 14 months ago, shaped vaguely like a dog, which Maya had named Gerald. Marcus had meant to call the landlord about Gerald 3 times. He hadn't. There were always other things. He got up, padded to the kitchen in socks. The apartment was small and clean, and organized the way a man who'd raised a child alone organized things. Maya's backpack by the door, her Thursday folder beside it, her lunchbox washed and waiting on the counter. Marcus had packed it the night before. Turkey on whole wheat, apple slices, the little note he tucked in every Thursday. Today it read, "You are exactly who you're supposed to be. Love, Dad." He put water on for the pour-over. They couldn't afford the espresso machine anymore. That was fine. The pour-over was better anyway, and he made it the way his abuela had taught him, slowly, deliberately, the water in circles, never a rush. Maya appeared in the kitchen doorway at 5:34, hair still mashed on one side, wearing her soccer jersey over her pajama pants. "You're wearing pajamas," Marcus said. "I know," she said. "It's Wednesday. It's Thursday." She looked at him, looked at the fridge calendar. "Then I'm wearing pajamas on Thursday." She climbed onto the counter stool and accepted the glass of orange juice he slid toward her. "Do you have a work thing today?" "I have a client visit." "Which building?" "Hartwell Tower." "Downtown?" Maya wrinkled her nose. "The glass one with the dumb lobby fountain?" "That's the one. I've seen that fountain. It's wasteful." She drank her juice. "Are they nice?" Marcus thought about Diane Hargrove's assistant forwarding him the service entrance instructions 3 separate times. "They're busy people," he said. Maya seemed to accept this. She slid off the stool and went to brush her teeth, pausing in the hallway. "Dad? You always say how you treat people when they can't do anything for you is who you actually are. I do say that. Just making sure you remember." He watched her go. He stood there for a moment in the quiet kitchen, Gerald the water stain overhead, the pour-over finishing its slow drip. He thought about how she remembered everything he said and held it up to him like a mirror, and how that was the most clarifying thing that had ever happened to him. Elena had been the same way. Both of them. Mirror holders. He poured his coffee into the travel mug, checked his phone. 7 new emails from his operations director, 3 texts from his CFO, and a calendar invite for the board call at 2 p.m. He moved the board call to 3, picked up the travel mug, kissed the top of Maya's head on his way out. She was wearing the soccer jersey and pajama pants and a look of complete serenity. He left for Hartwell Tower in his 2011 Honda Civic. His fleet of Range Rovers lived at the main office. He rarely drove them. He liked the Civic. He'd bought it used the year Maya was born, and it still ran clean. The service entrance to Hartwell Tower was narrow and required a passcode the building manager had texted at 7:02 a.m. Marcus entered it, loaded the Summit Facilities cart in the freight elevator, rode to 42. A facilities coordinator named James, young, clearly new, met him with an apologetic expression. "I'm supposed to take you straight up," James said. 42nd. "They've got a board prep session this morning, so the window is I'm familiar," Marcus said. "I'll be out of the way." The 42nd floor was the executive suite, private offices, a boardroom with a view of the whole valley, and the glass-walled kitchen and espresso bar where Marcus arrived to find Diane Hargrove, Trevor Poole, Justine Ward, and Brett Calloway mid-conversation about a distribution contract. That was when the comment about the service elevator was made. Marcus had heard it from 17 feet away. He'd kept his expression neutral. He'd moved to the supply closet, as noted, found the caddy, and begun working methodically from the far end of the kitchen toward the espresso bar. "Excuse me," Diane's voice, directed at him, carrying the precise tone of someone accustomed to directing people without learning their names. "While you're there, the machine takes the Verona pods. Could you make me a double? And one for Trevor." Marcus looked at the espresso machine. He knew this model. He'd owned the company that imported the pods for 3 years before selling it to a hospitality group in Austin. He set the caddy down, made the espresso, set them on the counter. "Thank you," Diane said, without looking at him. Then, to Trevor, the Meridian contract, Marcus returned to cleaning. It was fine. He'd learned long ago that visibility was a choice, and that some of the most powerful moves were invisible ones. He wasn't here because of Hartwell and Associates. He was here because Maya had a school project on supply chain logistics, and he'd thought, with a father's particular logic, that bringing her to see a real corporate building on Saturday would be interesting. He'd called in a favor. He didn't announce himself, because he rarely did. He was scrubbing a section of tile grout when Trevor Poole walked past him and said, to Justine Ward, not to Marcus, "Rough life, right? Coming in to clean up after everyone." Justine had the grace, again, to look at the carpet. Marcus kept scrubbing. What Trevor didn't know was that Marcus's domestic staffing division employed 47 facility technicians in this city alone and had a 12-month wait list. What he didn't know was that Marcus had read Hartwell and Associates' Q3 filing that morning over his pour-over, and their EBITDA had declined 14% year over year. What he didn't know was that one of Hartwell's primary coffee vendors, third largest by contract value, had reached out to Marcus's operations director 2 weeks ago about an acquisition, and that Marcus had not yet decided. Marcus decided, somewhere around the grout, to keep not deciding. He was packing the cart to leave when Brett Calloway approached the espresso machine for a third cup. He glanced at Marcus's coverall, at the Summit logo, back at his phone. Then, apparently deciding something, he cleared his throat. "You ever think about doing something else?" Marcus looked at him. "Excuse me? I mean this." Brett gestured vaguely at the cart, the mop, the cleaning supplies. "No offense. It just seems like. You know." He shrugged. Limiting, Marcus sipped the caddy closed. "I think about it sometimes," he said, which was true in the way that most things people said were partially true. Brett nodded, apparently satisfied with himself. He took his espresso back to the group. James, the coordinator, was waiting at the freight elevator. He looked mortified in the way only a genuinely decent person witnessing bad behavior looked mortified. "I'm really sorry about." "Don't worry about it," Marcus said. They're not always like that." Marcus pressed the freight button. "Sure they are. But it's not your fault." The elevator came. Marcus loaded the cart. As the doors closed, he pulled out his phone and texted his CFO, "Hold the Meridian acquisition discussion. I'll call at 3. The CFO responded in 40 seconds. "Is this about today's visit?" Marcus looked at the Summit Facilities logo stitched over his chest. "Tell you at 3. He was in the lobby caf, public side, not the executive dining room, eating a turkey sandwich and reviewing the Meridian supplier files when the call came in. Not from his CFO. From Hartwell's head of partnerships. Brett Calloway. Marcus stared at the number for a moment. Then he answered. "Marcus Delgado." A pause. Long one. This is Brett Calloway, from Hartwell and Associates. I was calling for the owner of Summit. I'm sorry, I have this number listed as the primary contact for Summit Facilities?" "I'm the owner," Marcus said. Another pause. Longer, we spoke earlier today. 42nd floor. Marcus ate a bite of his sandwich. "I remember." The silence that followed was the specific silence of a man rearranging everything he thought he'd understood in the past 4 hours. Marcus had heard that silence before. He didn't enjoy it, exactly. He wasn't built for gloating. But he recognized it. I wasn't aware that you," Brett started. Stopped. "I owe you an apology." "You asked me if I'd thought about doing something else," Marcus said. "That was the comment you're apologizing for?" "Among others." "Yes, okay." Marcus finished the sandwich. "What was the call about, Brett?" What Brett had been calling about was Meridian Coffee Group. Hartwell and Associates had been Meridian's second largest corporate client for 4 years. Meridian's distribution arm supplied 11 Hartwell office locations with specialty coffee, the Verona pods, among others, as well as equipment service contracts worth, collectively, just under $800,000 annually. Meridian had reached out to Marcus's acquisition team because their founder was retiring, and they wanted a buyer who understood quality, not just margin. Marcus had been considering it. He had been in no rush. Diane Hargrove, it turned out, had been planning to renegotiate Meridian's contract. Aggressively, she wanted a 30% price reduction, or she'd pull the account and move to a bulk commercial supplier. Meridian's founder, confronted with that offer, had called Marcus's team the same afternoon. Marcus listened to all of this from Brett Calloway, who was now speaking in a different register than he'd used on 42. "We weren't aware," Brett said carefully, "that you had a relationship with Meridian." "I'm in the process of acquiring them," Marcus said. "The paperwork closes in 10 days. Another silence. This one was different. Not rearrangement, but the particular quiet of a man watching a door close. "Miss Hargrove would like to speak with you," Brett said. "If you're available." I'm available at 3, Marcus said. You can use the main summit line. My assistant will connect you. He hung up, looked at his phone for a moment. Then he texted Maya. She'd be at lunch now. How's Thursday going? She texted back in 12 seconds. A photo, her in the soccer jersey, still wearing the pajama pants, giving a thumbs up in what appeared to be the school cafeteria. The caption, "Living the dream, Dad." He laughed out loud, alone in the lobby caf, and a woman at the next table looked up from her laptop and smiled at him, the way people smile at a man laughing genuinely by himself. He put the phone down, ordered another coffee, drip, lobby machine, nothing fancy. It was fine. He liked drip. The 3 o'clock call lasted 22 minutes. Diane Hargrove on the line did not open with an apology. Marcus had not expected her to. She was a CEO, and whatever she had or hadn't understood about the man with the mop bucket on 42, she hadn't gotten to where she was by leading with vulnerability. He respected that, in its way. She opened with, "Mr. Delgado, I understand we may have a mutual business interest." "It's possible," Marcus said. She laid it out cleanly. Hartwell wanted to retain the Meridian contract. They were prepared to offer favorable terms, a 3-year lock-in, revised service agreements, a partnership designation. She mentioned the renegotiation figure she'd quoted Meridian's founder. She did not apologize for it. "I've seen the figure," Marcus said. "I've also seen Meridian's cost structure. That number would have cost them 6 employees and both of their small batch roasters. Business is. I know what business is," Marcus said. The line was quiet. "I've been in it for 17 years. I started my first company in a 400-square-foot office with 1 employee, who was also me. And I cleaned my own offices for 4 years before I could afford to hire anyone. I know what it costs to cut where you shouldn't." A beat. "The Meridian acquisition is proceeding," Marcus continued. "Under new ownership, their pricing structure will reflect their actual operating costs. That means a modest increase from your current rate, not a decrease. If that works for Hartwell, we'd be glad to continue the relationship. If it doesn't, I understand. And if we chose not to continue, then Meridian's other clients will benefit from the additional capacity, and your locations will move to bulk commercial." He paused. "The Verona pods will go away, the ones you prefer." He could hear her breathing. "I'll have my team reach out," she said finally. Her voice was different than it had been on 42. Not smaller, Diane Hargrove did not do small, but calibrated. "And Mr. Delgado regarding this morning. The comment about the elevator. You don't need to, I'd like to." A pause. It was dismissive. And I've been in enough rooms where I was the one being dismissed to know how it lands. That shouldn't have happened. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He thought about Maya polishing his boots this morning. Serious and small. He thought about how you treat people when they can't do anything for you. He thought about the way Justine Ward had looked at the carpet. "I appreciate that," he said. "I mean it." "I'll have my team call yours," Diane said, and the call ended. His CFO texted 30 seconds later. "How'd it go?" Marcus picked up his travel mug. "Okay, tell James in facilities I'd like to send him a thank you. He was professional this morning." "James in their facilities or ours?" "Theirs. He was kind to someone who didn't need to be kind to." A pause. Noted. Trevor Poole resigned from Hartwell & Associates 11 days later. The resignation wasn't directly connected to Marcus. Trevor had been under a performance review that preceded the Meridian situation. But the board had been aware of the 42nd floor morning, because Justine Ward had reported it, quietly, to the board liaison. She'd said it was a pattern, not an incident. Trevor's exit was described in the internal announcement as pursuing other opportunities. Brett Calloway was promoted into an expanded partnerships role. Marcus heard about all of this secondhand. He felt no satisfaction, not the gloating kind. He thought about it the way he thought about most outcomes he'd anticipated. People show you who they are, and then time confirms it. Diane Hargrove's team signed a revised 3-year Meridian contract 2 weeks after acquisition close. It included a premium partnership tier that Hargrove had requested. She sent a handwritten note with the signing paperwork. It said, "Remarkable product. Remarkable people." My mistake was conflating the two with appearances. Marcus put the note on his refrigerator, next to Maya's drawing of the two of them labeled me and Dad. Gerald, the water stain, had been repainted over. The landlord had finally sent someone. 3 months after the Hartwell meeting, on a Saturday morning, Marcus took Maya to a coffee roastery. Not just any roastery, one of Meridian's. Their original location, the one in the warehouse district with the big glass windows and the smell of green beans and wood smoke that hit you from half a block away. The head roaster, a woman named Claudette, who had worked there for 12 years and was one of the 6 employees who would have been cut under the original Hargrove renegotiation, met them at the door. "This is Maya," Marcus told Claudette. Maya shook hands very formally. She was wearing her soccer jersey. She had graduated, by some internal logic, from wearing it over pajama pants to wearing it over jeans, which Marcus counted as progress. "I'm doing a school project," Maya said, "on supply chains." "Perfect place for it," Claudette said. "Come on back." They spent 2 hours in the roastery. Claudette explained the sourcing, 3 farms, 2 in Colombia, 1 in Ethiopia, relationships built over a decade. She explained the moisture content at import, the roast curve, the way small changes in temperature produced entirely different cups. She explained what it meant to know where something came from. Maya took notes in a spiral notebook and asked 17 questions. Marcus counted them, and Claudette answered every one. On the drive home, Maya was quiet in the way she got when she was processing. "Dad," she said, somewhere on the highway, if she'd had to fire those 6 people, would they have found other jobs? "Probably," Marcus said. "Eventually, but it would have been hard." "Yes, and you stopped it." He thought about how to answer that. He wasn't going to claim more credit than was accurate, and he wasn't going to pretend it was a small thing either. The situation resolved in a way that worked, he said. Claudette kept her job, and Hartwell got their coffee. Those things can coexist. Maya looked out the window for a while. "I think you stopped it," she said finally. "But also I think you were just being normal, and it happened to matter." He merged onto their exit. The afternoon light was low and gold through the windshield. "That's a good way to put it," he said. She went back to her notebook, scribbling something. He didn't ask what. He turned off the highway and drove them home through the flat, familiar streets of Riverside Hills, where Gerald the Stain used to live on the ceiling, and Maya still sometimes called him Gerald, even though he was gone. Because some things you named, and then they were yours, even when they weren't there anymore. That evening, Maya finished her supply chain project. Her conclusion section read, in 8-year-old handwriting, "The most important part of any supply chain is the people. If you forget the people, the chain breaks." My dad taught me that without saying it. He read it at the kitchen table while she was brushing her teeth. He sat there for a minute. Then he put the project down, washed the pour-over carafe, turned off the kitchen light, and went to tell her good night. Some things didn't need adding to. They were already enough.